Okay, it's nice. Something to drink. It's okay. Thank you. Okay, so today we'll be reading from the glorious Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter 30, fourth canto, chapter 31, entitled Narada's Instructs the Prajetas, verse 8. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayat Nasta Preshwa Bhadrisho Nityam Bhagavat Sevaya Bhagavatyutam Shloke Bhakti Bhavati Naishtaki. Okay. Oh, thank you. Okay, text 8. Maitreyo Vacha Iti Prachetasam Prishto Bhagavan Narado Muni Bhagavatyutama Shloka Avishtatma Pravindripan Iti Prachetasam Prishto Bhagavan Narado Muni Bhagavatyutama Shloka Avishtatma Pravindripan Iti Prachetasam Prishto Bhagavan Narado Muni Bhagavatyutama Shloka Avishtatma Pravindripan Maitreyo Vacha Iti Prachetasam Prishto Bhagavan Narado Muni Bhagavatyutama Shloka Avishtatma Pravindripan
Maitreyo Vacha Iti Prachetasam Prishto Bhagavan Narado Muni Bhagavatyutama Shloka Avishtatma Pravindripan
Maitreyo Vacha Iti Prachetasam Prishto Bhagavan Narado Muni Bhagavatyutama Shloka Avishtatma Pravindripan
Maitreyo
Vacha
Iti Prachetasam Prishto
Bhagavan Narada Muni Bhagavatyutama Shloka Avishtatma Pravindripan. Okay, word for word. Maitreyo Vacha. Maitreya said, Iti, thus, Prachetasam, by the Prachetas, Prishtaha, being asked, Bhagavan, the great devotee of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narada, Muni, very thoughtful, Bhagavati, in the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Uttama Shloke,
Uttama Shloke,
possessing excellent renown,
possessing excellent renown,
Avishta,
Avishta,
absorbed,
absorbed,
Atma,
Atma,
whose mind,
whose mind,
Abravit,
Abravit,
replied,
replied,
Nripan,
Nirvana,
to the kings.
to the king.
Okay, translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. The great sage Maitreya continued, My dear Vidura, being thus petitioned by the Prachetas, the supreme devotee Narada, who is always absorbed in thoughts of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, began to reply. Please repeat after me. The great sage Maitreya continued,
Great sage Maitreya continued,
My dear Vidura,
my dear Vidura,
being thus petitioned by the Prachetas,
being thus petitioned by the Prachetas,
the supreme devotee Narada,
the supreme devotee Narada,
who is always absorbed in thoughts of the Supreme Personality of Godhead,
who is always absorbed in thoughts of the Supreme Personality of Godhead,
began to reply.
began to reply.
Purport. In this verse, Bhagavan Narada indicates that Narada is always absorbed in thoughts of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Bhagavatutam Ashloka Avishtatma. Narada has no other business than thinking of Krishna, talking of Krishna, and preaching about Krishna. Therefore, he is sometimes called Bhagavan. Bhagavan means one who possesses all opulences. When a person possesses Bhagavan within his heart, he is also sometimes called Bhagavan. Srila Vishwanatha Chakravarti Thakura said, Sakshadhare Tvena Samasa Shastra. In every Shastra, the spiritual master is accepted directly as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This does not mean that the spiritual master or a saintly person like Narada has actually become the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but he is accepted in this way because he possesses the Supreme Personality of Godhead within his heart constantly. As described here, Avishtatma, when one is simply absorbed in the thoughts of Krishna, one is also called Bhagavan. Bhagavan possesses all opulence. If one possesses Bhagavan within his heart always, doesn't he not automatically possess all opulence? Also, in that sense, a great devotee like Narada can be called a Bhagavan. However, we cannot tolerate when a rascal or impostor is called Bhagavan. One must possess either all opulences or the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Bhagavan, who possesses all opulences. Om Agyanadhamrandhasya Kinanjana Shalakaya Chakshu Umilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. He Krishna Karuna Sindha Dinabandha Jagatpate Gopasha Gopaka Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishbhanu Sutadevi Pranamami. Hare Priya Panchakapatru Kripasindhavi Evacha Patitnam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnaveyo Namo Namah Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunvare Pashatire Shatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Okay, so today's verse once more. The great sage Maitreya continued, My dear Vidura, being thus petitioned by the Prachetas, the supreme devotee Narada, who is always absorbed in thoughts of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, began to reply. So we see here within the purport this emphasis on the word Bhagavan. And Bhagavan means he who possesses all 6 opulences, generally speaking. Could anyone name at least some of those opulences?
Wealth.
Wealth. What was it?
Beauty.
Beauty.
Fame.
Fame.
Renunciation.
Renunciation. Wisdom or knowledge. And strength. So I was contemplating about this, and I had heard someone else have mentioned this before. We're not Bhagavan. A humbling thing to think of and kind of blunt and straightforward is that most animate living entities like us have, for lack of better words, a liquid origin. When that comes in contact with the female in her womb, then we receive a full body that grows and grows and grows. But we started from nothing. We started just from a liquid origin. And, when we're born, newborns aren't very beautiful. Most newborns aren't really beautiful. I mean, Krishna, that's different. But most newborns, you don't go thinking, wow, this is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. Sometimes they end up with like a cone head. Sometimes their hair's all crazy. They look like the Michelin man with all these rolls. Like, they're not really that beautiful inherently. And, when we grow older, sometimes we say we had our glow up, right? Back when you're maybe going through puberty, you weren't quite the best looking, maybe you had braces, you had acne all over, maybe your sense of style wasn't that nice, but now that you're older and you don't have all those things, you've had your quote unquote glow up, now you look so nice. But the main point is that we did not have all these things. And I had read a post recently that had said and stayed within my mind that, we're born in this world with nothing, but we chase our whole lives chasing everything just to leave again with nothing. And it's pretty deep to really think about. We spent our whole lives chasing everything when we came into this world with nothing. So everything has actually been added to you. Your knowledge has been added to you, your beauty has been added to you, your strength has been added to you. You didn't have all these things from the start. But they can be subtracted just as easily. We may put the effort in to receive these things, but without the sanction of the Lord, we can't achieve these things. We can't be rich unless the Lord decides that. We can't be beautiful unless the Lord decides that as well. We can't have any of these things unless the Lord sanctions that we can have that. And it could go away instantly just as easily as we received it. I may be beautiful 1 second, but then there's some freak accident. I pour some acid on my face, I trip and skip on the floor, I end up having a dog attack me. Now I don't have the same beauty that I had. Or I just won the lottery, I gained all this money, but as often we hear, now all that money's gone and I'm poor again. Maybe I'm even in debt now. All these things, they come, they go. But Krishna, he is the source of everything. Ishwara Parama Krishna Satchidananda Vigraha Anadiradir Govinda Sarva Karana Karanam. Krishna, who is known as Govinda, is the supreme Godhead. He has an eternal, blissful, spiritual body. He is the origin of all. He has no other origin. And he is the prime cause of all causes. And as well as in the Bhagavad Gita, not just the first verse of Brahma Samhita, as I quoted. But in Bhagavad Gita, 10th chapter, verse 41, Krishna says that know that all opulent, beautiful, and glorious creations spring from but a spark of my splendor. So Krishna is the source of all these things. And all these things that we see here in the material world, he says, are just a spark of his splendor. We think these things are so beautiful, so nice. Everything here in the material world has a start date and has a due date. Whatever it may be, everything is constantly coming into creation and going out of creation. And in between that, it's decaying. So he is full in all six opulences of wealth, strength, fame, beauty, knowledge, and renunciation. So he can be called Bhagavan. However, elsewhere we see that others are besides him are sometimes called Bhagavan. Does that necessarily mean that they're God? No. So quick quiz for anyone besides Krishna and Narada, who else in the Srimad Bhagavatam has been called Bhagavan?
Indra, Shiva.
Indra, Shiva, anybody else?
Very awesome.
Okay. So we got these people as well as a few people that I had also. I hope I got these right. But when trying to look for all the people, it didn't give me a huge list online. But Kapila Muni. But I also say that Shukadeva and Brahma are also sometimes called Bhagavan. And so when we look at these personalities, Shukadeva Goswami doesn't inherently have wealth in the sense that we would think it. He's not dressed all fancy, and neither is Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva, he's very powerful, but we don't see him dripped in gold chains and fine clothes. Shukadeva Goswami is naked. Shiva, he's wearing animal skins with matted locks. Narada Muni, as well, he may be beautiful, he may go have all these other wonderful things, but we don't see him surrounded by women and dressed with all kinds of opulent wear. He's a sannyasi. So what's the main thing that they all have in common? And that main thing that they all have in common, like Prabhupada says, is that they all have God in their heart. One may say then, God's in everyone's heart. It says that very clearly in the Bhagavad Gita. He's in the heart of the trees, the plants. He's in the heart of the birds. He's in the heart of every single living entity there is, and every single atom. So how can you say that we can't call everyone Bhagavan then? Krishna says that he's Paramatma. I'm the super soul, Arjuna, seated in the hearts of all living entities. I'm the beginning, the middle, and the end of all beings. So what makes these people so special? What makes these people so special, as Krishna also says in the Srimad Bhagavatam, in the 9th canto, 4th chapter, verse 68, he says that the pure devotee is always within the core of my heart, and I'm always in the heart of the pure devotee. My devotee does not know anything else but me, and I do not know anything else but them. So we see that 1, they're a devotee, and 2, the devotee knows nothing else but Krishna. So this makes the devotee very dear to Krishna. Krishna is the friend of all, and he's not, he's not partial to anyone. But he has a special favor for his devotees. Just like a father, he has a few kids, but, the older ones generally want to be more independent. They decide, what, I can do it. I don't need your help, Dad. I don't need your help, Mom. I can do it. Whereas the younger ones tend to ask the parent to do things. Can you do this? Can you do that? they want to generally spend more time with their parents, whereas the older kids try to spend less time with their parents. I want to go hang out with my friends. I want to go do this over there. They try to distance themselves. So from an outside perspective, it could seem that the father, he has more affection for the little one. He's constantly loving the little one. He's doing things for the little one. He's spending time with the little one. But in reality, the father loves all his children. So similarly, Krishna loves all of us, but he'll give that special favor and attention to those who are seeking that attention and that love for him. And so in that sense, we become dear to him because he is the most dear thing to us. I mean, isn't that so beautiful? Generally, when we are in a relationship, we want it to be that way. We want that person to not only just be dear to us, but that we be dear to them. And we have that opportunity with Krishna. And so who are the highest devotees that we hope to be like and serve like? That's the residents of Vrindavan. We mentioned that so many times. So I'll ask another question to you all. What are some of the characteristics of Vrindavan? Besides just the physical aspects of Vrindavan, what are some of the characteristics?
Every inhabitant of Vrindavan is always thinking of Krishna. Is always looking for Krishna, anxious to see Krishna, feeling great separation with Krishna.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly the point. Krishna is always the center. People are always speaking about Krishna, always hearing about Krishna. They're always thinking, what can they do for Krishna? The whole world revolves around Krishna. And I came across this beautiful story by Yamuna, about Yamuna, talking about Prabhupada. And it says that once Yamuna was asked how she was able to leave Vrindavan, as it was originally her intention to stay there throughout her life. She answered that she came to realize that Vrindavan is in your heart, and quoted the following story. Yamuna, she's saying this, once Prabhupada came for a short time to New Delhi, and afterwards Tejas, Gurudas, Shyamasundara, and I brought him to the Delhi airport. His plane was delayed, and we were sitting in a little group waiting when we heard this click, clack, click, clack, click, clack, coming from a young girl with high-heeled shoes, black stockings, and a mini dress. Shyama Sundar said to Prabhupada, "We're not in Vrindavan anymore, Srila Prabhupada." Prabhupada looked at him and said, "Yes, we are in Vrindavan. This is not Vrindavan?" That made me see things in a different light. I began to think, yes, I may physically leave Vrindavan, but Vrindavan is also in the heart. We can take Vrindavan into the heart, and when we leave the Dhamma, we can bring its atmosphere with us. Wherever we go, it gave me a little hope. So Vrindavan is also there within our hearts, within our consciousness, provided we make ourselves the receptacle. Everything is about making ourselves a fit receptacle. So we should make our hearts like Vrindavan and trap Krishna there, because Krishna never leaves Vrindavan. As stated in the Laghu Bhagavatam Rita, Vrindavanam Prityaja Swakvachin Nagachati. Krishna never at any time leaves Vrindavan. We see personalities such as Prabhupada who have Vrindavan in their heart. Their heart is Vrindavan, and when they're around, they become a holy tirtha. When they're around, they bring this whole atmosphere of Krishna consciousness. Everyone's thinking about Krishna, how to serve Krishna. It's like sometimes we get or associate with more advanced devotee or Swami, and we just get so much inspiration to serve Krishna. Or sometimes even when we're just in their presence, there's like no room for Maya, like at all. Everything's Krishna conscious. You're thinking about Krishna, you're thinking of his pastimes, you're thinking how to serve Krishna. And this is because they have that Vrindavan in their heart. But most of us do not have this Vrindavan-like heart, and that because this is something to be cultivated. And this begins by approaching someone who has Krishna in their heart, inquiring from him submissively and rendering service unto him. And just like the Bhagavad Gita says, that the self-realized souls can impart knowledge unto you because they have seen the truth. They can give you the creeper of bhakti. So I can, in looking for things along this topic of the heart and Krishna and this bhakti creeper, I came across this section in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. So I'll read a few verses in this regard. I think something nice to think about. So starting with text 151 of the Madhya Lila, chapter 19, it says, according to their karma, all living entities are wandering throughout the entire universe. Some of them are being elevated to the upper planetary systems, and some are going down into the lower planetary systems. Out of many millions of wandering living entities, one who is very fortunate gets an opportunity to associate with the bona fide spiritual master. By the grace of Krishna, by the mercy of both Krishna and the spiritual master, such a person receives the seed of the creeper of devotional service. So we see that it's great fortune that we get the opportunity to serve, to even associate with a bona fide spiritual master. And this comes from the grace of Krishna. If we're sincere, Krishna within the heart can give us the spiritual master to help guide us into the service. And by both of their mercy from the Krishna and the spiritual master, we can receive the seed of the creeper of devotional service. So to continue, when a person receives the seed of devotional service, he should take care of it by becoming a gardener and sowing the seed in his heart. If he waters the seed gradually by the process of Shravana and Kirtana, hearing and chanting, the seed will begin to sprout. As one waters the Bhakti Lata Bija, the seed sprouts, and the creeper gradually grows to the point where it penetrates the walls of this universe and goes beyond the Viraja river lying between the spiritual world and the material world. It attains Brahma Loka, the Brahman effulgence, and penetrating through the stratum, it reaches the spiritual sky and the spiritual planet Goloka Vrindavana. Being situated in one's heart and being watered by Shravana Kirtana, the Bhakti creeper grows more and more. In this way, it attains the shelter of the desire tree at the lotus feet of Krishna, who is eternally situated in the planet known as Goloka Vrindavana, in the topmost region of the spiritual sky. So we see that the main way that we can grow this creeper devotional service is through hearing and chanting. Just like when we're looking at the 9 types of devotional service, the first 2 that are mentioned are hearing and chanting. So we keep getting this emphasis of hearing and chanting, hearing and chanting. And what is the strongest of all senses is hearing. When you're asleep, you're not tasting, you're not necessarily smelling, you're not necessarily feeling. But the one thing that you do have that comes in its own way is hearing. You'll hear something and wake you up. It could be something light, it could be something loud, but your hearing is constantly going on while all the other senses are inactive. So it's hearing and chanting of Krishna. So to continue on, the creeper greatly expands in the Goloka Vrindavan planet, and there it produces the fruit of love for Krishna. Although remaining in the material world, the gardener regularly sprinkles the creeper with the water of hearing and chanting. If the devotee commits an offense at the feet of a Vaishnava while cultivating the creeper of devotional service in the material world, his offense is compared to a mad elephant that uproots the creeper and breaks it, In this way, the leaves of the creeper are dried up. So right here we're seeing just how horrible Vaishnav aparad, or how great of an impact it can have on our bhakti. I mean, one of the first 10 offenses to the chanting of the holy name is Vaishnav aparad, offending the devotees who have dedicated their lives to the propagation of the holy names of the Lord. So this is very something we should definitely be careful for, because as mentioned here, it's like a mad elephant that stomps in your garden and tears up everything. And to continue on, the gardener must defend the creeper by fencing it all around so that the powerful elephant of offenses may not enter. Sometimes unwanted creepers, such as the creepers of desires for material enjoyment and liberation from the material world, go along with the creeper of devotional service. The varieties of such unwanted creepers are unlimited. So sometimes while we're chanting the Maha Mantra, sometimes maybe directly, maybe indirectly, we may get this tendency to think about, well, this is my way of becoming liberated, or this could fulfill my material desires because it's pleasing Krishna, I'm in service of Krishna, and I have Krishna here. And the Shastras say that, I could fulfill all desires. So there's something else to be mindful of. There's a name for those two, but I can't remember them at this point in time. Anyways, some unnecessary creepers growing with the bhakti creeper are creepers of behavior unacceptable for those trying to attain perfection, diplomatic behavior, animal killing, mundane profiteering, mundane adoration, and mundane importance. All these are unwanted creepers. If one does not distinguish between the bhakti creeper and the other creepers, the sprinkling of water is misused because the other creepers are nourished while the bhakti creeper is curtailed. As soon as an intelligent devotee sees an unwanted creeper growing beside the original creeper, he must cut it down instantly. Then the real creeper, the bhakti lata, grows nicely, returns home back to Godhead, and seeks shelter under the lotus feet of Krishna. When the fruit of devotional service becomes ripe and falls down, the gardener tastes the fruit and thus takes advantage of the creeper and reaches the desired tree of the lotus feet of Krishna in Loka Vrindavana. There the devotees serve the lotus feet of the Lord, which are compared to a wish-fulfilling tree. With great bliss, he tastes the juice of the fruit of love and becomes eternally happy. To taste the fruit of devotional service in Goloka Vrindavana is the highest perfection of love, and is in the presence of such perfection, the four material perfections, religion, economic development, sense gratification, and liberation, are very insignificant. As soon as there is not the slightest fragrance of pure love of Krishna, which is the perfect medicinal herb for controlling Lord Krishna within the heart, the opulences of material perfections known as the siddhis, the brahminical perfections such as satya, shama, titiksha, and so on, the chants of the yogis, and the monistic bliss of Brahman all seem wonderful to men. So in this, here are some key takeaways, points that were made. So one, water the seed of the bhakti seed by the process of Shravana and Kirtana, hearing and chanting. Two, if the devotee commits an offense at the lotus feet of a Vaishnava while cultivating the creeper devotional service in the material world, his offense is compared to a mad elephant that uproots the creeper and breaks it. So we should be aware and protected from such things. Three, sometimes unwanted creepers, such as the creepers of desire for material enjoyment and liberation from the material world, grow along with the creeper devotional service, as well as unnecessary creepers growing with bhakti creepers, such as behavior unacceptable for those trying to attain perfection, diplomatic behavior, animal killing, mundane profiteering, mundane adoration, mundane importance. And lastly, as soon as the intelligent devotee sees an unwanted creeper growing beside the original creeper, he must cut it down instantly. So these are some things to contemplate while we're growing in our devotional service, while we're growing this seed, because it's very delicate seed. Just like taking care of tulsi, for example, very delicate. So if you do too much of this or not enough of that, you can have a hard time trying to grow this seed. So, especially in the beginning process, what to speak of later on, we should be very careful to water and take care of this bhakti lata bija. So if we want to make our hearts, if we want to make our hearts like Vrindavan, we should approach someone who can give us this bhakti creeper, in which we water through hearing and chanting, especially the Maha Mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. As well as engaging in other devotional services that will help cleanse the heart and will, with time, bring us to the stage of pure, unmotivated, uninterrupted, loving devotional service for Krishna. And this way you'll have Krishna seated on the lotus of your heart. And if he's there, what else is there really to gain? He's the origin of anything that you would ever chase, and he's the supreme goal. People chase, gain, and lose so many things, but you'll never lose Krishna. He's always present in your heart, and he's your ever well-wisher. So if you make him the supreme goal and the supreme thing that you're trying to attain, there's not really anything for you to lose. He possesses all these qualities. Like the last sentence in today's purport, Prabhupada mentions that one must possess either all opulences or a supreme personality of Godhead, Bhagavan, who possesses all opulences. So if you have a person, what's the need for all these other things? Anything that you could need, Krishna could provide for you. If you need money, he could provide that for you. If you need shelter, if you need food, if you need any type of thing, Krishna could provide those things for you like that, if you have that kind of faith. I mean, Krishna's, he's feeding all the animals in the world. Everyone's getting fed. Everyone's getting what they need according to what's fit and also what's in their karma. Anyways, I think we could end here. If there's any questions or discussion, comments, yes, Mother Sadhavani.
So you're saying more toward the beginning of your class that, we all have certain karma, and someone's not beautiful or someone's not rich or then that's it. But the American way is to, get a facelift or, work yourself, out of your poverty. Or if you're hot, you get an air conditioner. If you're cold, you get a heater. So, it seems like in America and many developed countries that they're conquering material nature like that. And this other stuff just has nothing to do. It's just some kind of belief. But if you work hard and you imagine it, or you somehow or other you manifest it yourself. So there's no need to talk about this karma stuff.
Yeah, that's a good point. And
Bhagavatam America.
This is a point. Everyone thinks that they're the doer. And this is the problem. We're thinking that we're accomplishing things. We're the ones doing this. I'm the one that got myself rich. I'm the one that became this. But in reality, all these things are happening through Krishna's mercy and grace. Even the most mundane people, even sometimes the most cruel and the most hated of people are getting blessed by Krishna. But all these things are happening to him. Just as I was mentioning earlier, we started from this, and we grew in the womb of our mother. And from there, we weren't born, we didn't have complete knowledge, we didn't have beauty, we weren't very strong. All these things have been added by Krishna. So all the things that come later in life, Even if it's through your efforts, it's only by Krishna's grace. Your strength is by Krishna's grace. Your remembrance, your knowledge that got you to be able to do these things is coming from Krishna. So we may think that we're the doer, but without him giving you the intelligence and the ability to be able to do it, as Krishna says, I'm the ability in man. Without these things that are gifted to us, we wouldn't be able to do these things on our own, so to speak. That good. Kirtaneshwar.
In response to Mother Namni, Krishna says, Prakriti Kriyamanani Guna Karmani Sarvasha and Karmarama Kartamiti Manite. I said that living entities think themselves, doing this, but actually the modes are doing it. He also says Upadrasta Numantascha Bharta Bhokta Maheshvara, that he's the overseer and the permitter. So sometimes we think that the guy in the street, some people work very hard and they still don't get anything. And some people don't work hard at all and then they're also super rich. So it's the illusion. I call that the commercials of Maya. When you're out and about and you see someone, their life looks good. They got a, pretty wife and, they're getting all nice prasadam every day. And, I can do that or something, so many different commercials of Maya, but they're all tricks of Maya. Trying to sell us, to make us think that we can do something to change our position, but actually we can't.
Only spiritually.
Yeah, that's a good point. There's some people we see they work multiple jobs, but they're still barely getting by. You think by having multiple jobs, they'd have twice or thrice as much money as most people, but they're still barely making ends meet. And we strive for so many things, but without that grace, without Krishna's permission, we'll just keep striving with no end. Yes, Niro Prabhu.
The Chaitanya Charitamrita specifically mentions some of the weeds that grow up. Pratishta, the desire for name, fame, recognition. Puja, the desire to be worshipped, have many followers. Kutinati, fault finding. Jivahinsa, envy of other living entities. These are all explained there. These are some of the weeds that grow. So one may begin to practice Krishna consciousness, and then he may think, this Krishna consciousness is so nice, Krishna's fulfilling all my desires, and then he develops a desire for pratishta. He wants recognition from everyone. And he's walking around thinking, I'm such a great devotee, everyone has to recognize me as a great devotee. And he begins to make arrangements to try to get those strokes from others. Or kutinati, he finds fault with everyone else. And by finding fault with everyone else, they go down, and then he thinks, I'm going up. And then puja, to desire to be worshipped by others. These are all very dangerous weeds. And it's nicely explained there where you read that these weeds, they suck up all the water, and the creeper dries up. And there's a verse in the Bhagavatam that you can have a pond with a bunch of reeds growing around the edge of the pond, and then they could suck up all the water, and then there's no water left in the pond. Dry up the pond by sucking up all the water, like cat and nine tails and these different kinds of, reeds. So one has to, as you said nicely, one has to distinguish between the desires to serve Krishna and the weeds. And these weeds are very insidious, and we see, sometimes they say the bigger they come, the harder they fall. We see these weeds arise in people's hearts that become prominent, devotees even. But they become overwhelmed by these weeds.
Yes, thank you.
Those are some of the specific ones, which are very, one should understand them so we can spot them. And one may think, oh yes, I'm spotting them in everyone else. But one should learn to spot them within oneself.
Yes,
Because when you water the creeper, those weeds will come. That's not maybe. No, they're striving to manifest, and therefore you have to chop them off at the root.
That was a great, thank you for mentioning those specific ones, and that last one's a really important point, is that it's good to really know these things, that way we could spot them, because, you know, if you plant a few seeds in the ground and you're trying to grow something, but you don't know what the plant exactly is that you're growing, anything could look like a weed and anything could look like what you're trying to grow, so you don't know which one's to pull and which one's not to pull. Maybe you just leave them all there and it could destroy what you're trying to originally grow. Iskatanishwar.
In the Madhurya Kadambini, by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, it describes that if one practices devotional service, there's six elements of anarta nivriti. Or he breaks down, instead of 9 steps, there's 14, and then these 6 stages till one gets to the stage of nishta, but in his case he calls it the solid state of bhajana kriya. So one of them is that anyone who practices bhakti, like Guru Prabhu was saying, just to corroborate that anybody who practices bhakti sincerely, the fame and the followers and the admirers, they come naturally, and so one has to be able to avoid them, and to avoid that getting to their mind, getting to their consciousness. And you think of Madhavendra Puri, anytime he would go to a village, they'd start to realize he's a really great devotee, then he would just leave, because he didn't want anybody to think I'm a great devotee. And when Kshora Gopinath stole the rice, or the sweet rice, for him, he left because he thought, oh, people are going to think, that I'm a great devotee. So he's our example.
Thank you. Anything else? Okay, then I think we'll end there. Thank you all for comments and adding into the conversation. Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Shri Prabhupada ki jai.